Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of On-Prem Pros. My name is Josh Moss. I'm a solutions architect here at xByte Technologies, and I've got my counterparts LJ Palin and Tyler Young today. And we are going to be talking a little bit about the current gen PowerStore Gen 2 compared to the PowerStore Elite, aka the Gen 3 appliances. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, sir.
Or
Yeah, so today we're going to be comparing the PowerStore generations a little bit, like I mentioned. So PowerStore Gen 2, that is comprised of the PowerStore 500T, 1200, 32, 5200, 9200T, compared to the new PowerStore Elite, which is called the PowerStore 1500, 5500, and 9500. So what Dell is marketing this as is this isn't a complete separate product family. Gen 2 appliances that we've become accustomed with are marketed as the current gen, and the PowerStore Elite appliances are next generation. Is how they're marketing it. Specifically with some hardware and performance improvements that we will go through here in just a bit. As far as like I said, the family goes, it's still a part of the PowerStore family. So software management pretty much looks the same. What really is different is the underlying hardware. So with that in mind, Tyler, can you tell me a little bit about some of the underlying hardware differences that we can see in the PowerStore Elite?
Yeah, of course. So as a quick refresh, with the PowerStore Gen 2, right? It's a 2U base enclosure, right? You can do up to 25 U.2 NVMe drives depending on the model we're talking about. Because again, some of those are depending on the model, are reserved for those NVRAM. But again, up to 25 total NVMe drives. Those are those U2 form factors. So again, that was then, right? Now with the PowerStore Elite, Dell kind of changed things a little bit. Instead of a 2U base enclosure, we're now looking at a 3U base enclosure. So one more U of rack space, but that's something where depending on the model, you can get up to 40 of the new NVMe Gen5 E3.S drives. So I mean, yes, it's taking up one more U of rack space, but I mean, with that much more density, when it comes to the storage, I mean, I think it definitely warrants that. So again, depends on the model. The 1500 itself, you can do up to 24 of those E3.S drives, but the 55 and the 9500s are the ones where you can do up to 40 of those drives there. So essentially, we're talking about more drives, right? Not just a more usable capacity with those, but when you think about the data, the compression and deep that we're talking about a little bit, right? That's just a lot more effective capacity you can get on the appliance as well. So yeah, there's really a lot more scalability you have with this new Gen 3.
It's nice to see Dell enter the Gen 5 NVMe E3.S on the storage side. We've seen that with the the server side for the last couple years. So it's awesome to see. So when it comes to the compute and memory, LJ, what sort of differences can we expect between the Gen 2 appliances and PowerStore Elite?
yeah, so they're doing the generic upgrades there, right? Going from DDR4, DDR5, getting the performance boost that you get with that. Also looking at newer processors from the Intel, and larger memory bandwidths, better processing power, things like that, allowing larger data reduction rates and higher performance out of the array. So just kind of looking at the standard upgrades you would see going from a new generation as PowerStore Gen 2's been out for about 2 years. Just looking at newer technologies there, so DDR5 and the latest and greatest Intel processors.
Awesome. Another pretty cool feature that we've seen is so back in the Gen 2, current gen appliances, you've got, your mezzanine card, and then you can have two IO modules. A pretty cool feature with the new PowerStore Elite is you can go a lot more expandable with the network connectivity. In fact, you can get up to 40 front end ports, which is insane
Yeah,
to
no,
me. So not only do you have a lot more of connectivity options, they've also increased the fiber channel speed. Current Gen 2 appliances, you can do 1632 gig fiber channel. You can do 100 gig Ethernet already on 1200T and up. But on the PowerStore Elite, you can do up to 64 gig fiber channel now. So that is a pretty cool feature. And that kind of leads us into our next topic, performance. Tyler, what sort of performance differences will we expect, and how can we utilize the IO, given these performance expansions?
yeah, no, it's definitely really exciting. I mean, like I talked about earlier, right, with the NVMe E3.S, right, those Gen 5 NVMe drives, so new generation of NVMe technology, right, that's going to essentially double the amount of performance you're going to be able to get. But overall, when we're looking at the appliance in the entirety, right, the PowerStore Elite is said to bring up to 3 times more IOPS and throughput compared to previous generations of PowerStore. So again, a lot more room for much more VMs there. More databases, right? More applications. You can essentially do a lot more workloads on that appliance. So yeah, there's definitely a much higher performance ceiling than we saw in the past. So definitely a lot more headroom there. And again, definitely excited to see customers kind of push the PowerStore Elite to its limits.
Yeah, a key theme that we're seeing here is, greater improvements in performance, greater density. So LJ, how does that impact what sort of data reduction we can expect out of the PowerStore? Are we still looking at a standard 5-to-1 like we have seen in the current gen?
We're actually improving that. When we go with this one, we're actually looking to get 6-to-1 data reduction for anything on the block data, right? File data doesn't qualify for that guarantee, but anything on the block data, Dell is still doing the guarantee, and has been moved up to a 6-to-1 on that ratio. Again, we're getting that from the increase in memory and the better processors, things like that, including the density of this unit. I mean, I know you guys spoke earlier, the 9500 being able to put 40 drives in it. Just that's a lot of drives you put in the PowerStore. And again, if we're not talking data reduction rates with PowerStore, really not having the right conversations. So being able to increase that in the industry from 5-to-1 and 6-to-1, just a crazy guarantee out there. And you could get more. Just obviously it can vary per workload, but having that guarantee starting at 6-to-1 is a really good place to start.
100%. Yeah, comparing PowerStore, even Gen 2 to the block-based arrays like the ME52, like you just said, that's really where PowerStore separates itself. Not only is it much more performant with the NVMe, lower latency and higher throughput, but being able to take advantage of deduplication and compression really sets it apart. So when it comes to the actual flash media, so Tyler, if you recall the PowerStore 3200, there was a QLC version of that. In addition to the TLC, what sort of NAND options do we have in the PowerStore Elite?
Yeah, no, great question. So, right, just like we saw it later in that mid-gen refresh on the PowerStore Gen 2, where they introduced the QLC options on PowerStore. They brought that back for the Elite for customers who really just want to essentially prioritize cost per terabyte over performance. And it's not necessarily saying, oh, you're going to get terrible performance, right? But a lot of customers that we see who utilize NVMe drives, right? The NVMe technology is just light years faster than what they, I'm sorry, the ceiling of what NVMe can do is light years faster than what customers, may actually need. So if they're, maybe needing a little more capacity there, they can give that up and still, hit significant performance that they, is just amazing for the workload. So and just start refresh too, because I know we get this question asked all the time, like what's the difference between TLC and QLC? So TLC, stands for triple level cell, right? Essentially, you are storing 3 bits of data per memory cell, right? So basically, you're going to get much faster performance, lower latency, higher durability, more reliability, overall, right? And then QLC, right? You essentially, it stands for quad level cell, and basically you can store up to 4 bits per cell. Essentially, you're going to get a much higher storage capacity, at a much lower cost. So again, yes, it's going to slow down the write speed slightly, but again, for customers who don't necessarily need the ceiling of NVMe technologies, but still want to take advantage of those nanosecond, microsecond, nanosecond latencies, again, it's still something that a lot of customers can take advantage of. So all to say is Dell kept that going. So whether you need to prioritize maximum performance, or if you want to kind of get a little bit of a best of both worlds and get some cost effectiveness there too, QLC is there as well.
Awesome. A little bit I touched about earlier was the software experience. This is not a separate family of appliances. So with that in mind, they have extended the same PowerStore OS to the PowerStore Elite, meaning familiarity on the network system admin's team is already going to be there. You don't have to relearn a new OS. You don't have to remember where all those special knobs and buttons are. So being able to apply what's already been learned on the current Gen 2 appliances, or even maybe in the Gen 1 if they're an older customer, it's still going to apply to the PowerStore Elite. Still able to do your unified block file management all directly from the PowerStore. So pretty much the same experience there. So understanding that the software management is going to be the same across the board, Tyler, what do mixed generation, power stores look like? What can we do when it comes to, PowerStore Gen 2 and the current PowerStore Elite?
Yeah, great question. And let me just do a quick little sidebar here is Dell has always done a great job with making sure that whatever's coming next isn't necessarily going to require a rip and replace of what was there previously, right? We've seen that with the Power Vaults. We've seen that, some of the other, legacy EMC, platforms, right? Dell's always done a great job of just really trying to make sure that whatever was current or previous can play well within to that next generation as you introduce the new, right? So that way it can at least be slowly phased out, right? And with the Power Store, they did the same thing, even back with Gen 1 and Gen 2 Power Store. So we see that again with Gen 3, right? So even though we're seeing the PowerStore Elite come in, right? It's cool because even if customers still have a Gen 2 PowerStore in play today, you can deploy a PowerStore Gen 3 alongside that, whether that means you are deploying it within the same cluster, right? So you can, not, we know from our other videos where we talked about you can cluster different models within the same generation or even different generations of a PowerStore. Same thing remains true now, right? We can mix a Gen 2 PowerStore and a Gen 3 PowerStore model, right, within the same cluster. So that's really unique there. And also customers like maybe I don't necessarily need that much performance. You can also take your PowerStore Gen 2, move that to maybe like a secondary location, right? And then you can sync the Gen 3 PowerStore Elite in the Gen 2 PowerStore as well. So again, it's pretty flexible with customers with existing PowerStore environments. So again, TLDR, right? You don't need to just rip and replace. It's not something that like, oh well, now old PowerStore is a paperweight, right? It's something that you can still utilize that and kind of deploy them alongside each other. So kudos to Dell again.
Indeed. So LJ, where do you see this fitting into a customer's environment, say to a Gen 2? And I guess an overall conclusion, what sort of parting words would you leave our viewers whenever they come to consider, Gen 2 versus Gen 3 in their environment?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I think Dell's giving us an option, right? Giving customers an option here. Just good with the new one being out, right? It's the new hotness, better data reduction rates, higher performance, and a more modern approach to their storage. With that being said, they're still giving you the flexibility to still be a Gen 2 customer. So if you're a customer that still is needing to be on the Generation 2, again, their current gen as they're calling it, they're allowing you to do that. You just have the ability and the option to be a customer that maybe needs to move up to the Elite series. Just really depends on where you fit, and that's where we come in place here. Have a conversation with us, and we can kind of point you in the right direction to the storage that fits your needs, whether it be a Gen 2 or it be an Elite. But yeah, Dell's giving you the flexibility to be a customer of either or even both. Like I said, as Tyler was just mentioning, you can mix them in the environment. So.
Awesome. With that being said, I figure it's time for our shameless plug when it comes to our On-Prem Pros videos. So when it comes to determining which solution is the right fit for your environment, definitely hit us up. We can help you get hooked up with a live optics run and figure out what sort of performance requirements you have right now, and see what could fit in your environment. With that being said, thank you for watching.